Hi there, this is Janet Gershon-Siegel, and I'm the Lonely Writer. This is serious social media help for the independent author. I am a master's degree candidate at Quinnipiac University, and this is my capstone project. It is all about helping the independent author who is an author who does not have an agent. Today I'm talking with Jason Howell. So hi and welcome.
Hello, Janet.
Hey. So Jason's an interesting guy. He and I met through Wattpad, but let's talk first about your background. So what's your life story in a nutshell?
Oh, wow. In a nutshell. Well, I was born in San Diego, California, military kid, moved all around, lived in Hawaii, lived in the Bay Area, lived in New Orleans, Guam. Always wrote. I'm that person with that boring author website bio that says, I've been writing ever since I could pick up a pen.
Oh.
I'm one of those people. And started reading seriously when I was about 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a very cute, very sexy female slam poet who was reciting a very sexual poem, and she referred to someone named Henry Miller. I didn't know who Henry Miller was.
Tropic of Cancer, yeah.
Yes, but I thought if this very cute, desirable young lady referenced Henry Miller, I must go figure out what Henry Miller is about. So I went and picked up the Rosie Crucifixion. Didn't do very well with it, but that was my introduction to serious reading and led to Joyce and Thomas Mann and Thomas Mann, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I think so.
And, kind of went from there, started writing after that in like my early 20s. And yeah, that's the nutshell.
So good-looking girls got you writing.
Absolutely.
Hey, whatever works. So you and I have we know each other from Wattpad, which is right. It's a very large site. I think there are like 20 million people on it, something like that now.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And Wattpad is it is a free site where you can put any kind of writing that you like. So it's both fan fiction and original fiction. It's always out there for free, but there are people who do try to monetize it. But I think you've kind of moved in a different direction, I've noticed, and this is part of why I wanted to talk to you, because for our listeners, Jason runs a blog called Howlarium, and so tell us a little bit about what Howlarium is and how you got it started and that sort of thing.
Hilarium is a site, it's basically a Q&A site, and it's hard to sort of pin it down, but the way I like to describe it is just a curated discussion that's ongoing. So, I've always loved interviewing people, but, interviews can be they're so ubiquitous, it's hard to kind of notice them in the noise.
True.
So I was like, instead of taking a set of questions and sending it to one person at a time, why don't I take one question and send it to a set of people at a time? That worked pretty well. People like to, when someone gives a response to a question, they like to see what someone else said about the same question. So,
definitely.
It's kind of like a curated forum, basically.
It struck me also as being sort of in a little bit like a salon, and unfortunately, because, we're not in real time. So, I'm in Boston, you're in California, and, some of the people you're talking to are, on other continents. And so, we talk and you ask a question about, say, author vanity, let's say, and I might answer it, and then so does a guy in Ireland, and and people in other countries, and so the time when we get to bounce off each other actually happens after it gets posted.
Yep.
But then the sort of the give and take, it goes maybe to one or two more levels, and then and then you move on to the next question.
That's the limitation. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a limitation, but in a way it's actually kind of good, because otherwise we don't sort of go down this weird primrose path where we're going for, 3 weeks on, on whatever, on inspiration or whatever you wish to talk about.
Very true.
But you have got a really diverse group of people, I've noticed. Some of them seem to be from Wattpad. Some of them seem to be from Facebook. How else are you getting participants?
Well, I'm not going to give away all my kung fu,
Please don't.
but I'll give away this little piece, and this is for anyone who is interested in interviewing authors that you don't know or getting sort of content that can be compelling. It's sort of a hit or miss. But Goodreads has this thing that I know you know about, Janet, called the Ask the Author space.
Yes.
If the person is a Goodreads author and they've enabled this, there is an Ask the Author box on their profile where you can just stop by and just ask them a question. And it's on you how interesting you want to make that question, which is going to dictate how interesting the response is, which is going to dictate how interesting your content's going to be. And I've never had someone for whom I've asked a question through that vein get mad at me at all for reposting it anywhere because you're linking them.
Which is really terrific. I think that's something that indies are a little bit afraid of. I mean, maybe fear is not 100% the right word. Apprehensive, maybe that's a little gentler sort of word. That I've been saying this to other people that we seem to be a community of terrified introverts.
It's a great way to put it.
And but the problem is that we do better when we network. And you sort of move outside your comfort zone and you start to talk to people who maybe you wouldn't have talked to. I mean, and maybe you and I aren't. We're not going to talk to George or Martin, at least I don't think we will. And we're not going to talk to Jim Butcher, probably not. No. But at least to be able to reach out to each other and leverage our own community, I think is a really neat thing. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, is because I think you do that really, really wonderfully. Now, you have also always these really interesting questions too. Oh. So, what is your current question? I've been processing a lot of email lately, so I know I saw it, but I have forgotten which one it is, to be honest with you.
The current question is basically on. I have it on my desktop here because I don't know it off the top of my head.
What, you don't know this immediately? My God, Jason.
It's what's wrong with you? It's on sort of how a writerly person would negotiate the distance between their immediate everyday life and the sort of dream on the horizon that they want to get to. Mm-hmm. These questions are getting really abstract lately, but that's the question, and it begins with a quote from Zora Neale Hurston. Mm-hmm. I can't speak today. Zora Neale Hurston, and then it deals with, how are you dealing with where you are now and the distance between that and where you want to be? So
you always get it's good thought-provoking kinds of questions. It's a lot better than the ever popular, where do you get your ideas from? Where do you get your inspiration from? As an illustrious person as Harlan Ellison, I know what he has answered that, and I love his response. His answer to the question of where do you get your ideas, and his answer is Schenectady.
Oh, New York?
Yes. So maybe we should all just take a field trip to Schenectady and knock over.
Town, perhaps.
Yeah, and knock over poor Harlan Ellison, who I think still has some fight in him. So just beware. He's the kind of original, you kids get off my lawn kind of guy. So, what are your future plans for Howlarium?
Ooh, that is something that I'm figuring out as we speak, kind of. Well, I mean, we can start by talking about the nature of blogging, and really quick, which is that it's aggressively reptilianly niched. so you kind of end up you can end up being a prisoner of your own niche in a way if you are the blogger, because your audience ends up being a particular person with a particular interest, and they come to expect something that's going to correlate with that interest.
Yes.
And you can't just make a quick left turn without bewildering them or angering them or something. So the question becomes, for me, how many questions in me do I have about writing without making myself and everybody else throw up? You know what I mean? It's
to use the technical term.
How much can I take and how much can you guys take? And so I've been trying, and this is probably one of the reasons that the questions are sort of getting a little bit abstract, is that I'm trying to kind of gradually open that window a little bit more to other things without completely leaving writing behind, at least right now. So I'm sort of looking into interviewing activists, environmentalists, botanists, biologists, whatever. We're fiction writers, so our material can be literally anything.
Absolutely.
It's just a matter of executing that in a way that doesn't alienate everyone.
Agreed, and it's also the problem with the niche is that it's after a while you do run out of stuff to say. Unless there's some major news story that kind of sustains you for a while, you have got to expand it, because if you don't, you're to use the technical term, you're kind of screwed.
Pretty much.
You need to push it along. I mean, because one of the things that at least we learned in school was that the blog sort of you kind of branch out from. You have stuff that's about you. You have stuff about what you want to do or make. You have sort of an FAQ, and you kind of have like what about your readers. But
Right.
but if your readers are all very niche, also, then that's also limited. So you have to sort of kind of gently put people through put them down a different path and say, okay, well, now we're gonna start to talk about this other thing and this other thing, and hopefully your niche they'll come along with you, and they'll expand their minds, and they'll start to say, okay, well, instead of just talking about this, let's open it up, and like you said, we'll talk science, or we'll talk these other things. Now, have you got a current work in progress?
I have many. But as far as one that I'm like sort of entrenched in right now, no. I'm just trying to write short stories, and I have a lot of beginnings. I'm kind of playing the keys and seeing which one sounds right. So I'm not sure I have a ton to offer that would be interesting on WIPs right now.
What would you say is your best advice for an independent author?
Oh my God, you're really going to ask me this? Best advice? Are you serious?
Or you can give me lousy advice if you like.
No. I was just about to say something that's not okay for this, but in any way disparaging the question. I was just like, oh God, who am I to give advice? As far as like aspiring writers, beginners, you mean?
Yeah, or like what's been working for you? What would you say you want to know that you wish somebody had told you?
Tough one. I'll say this. You're going to come to a point, if you're following your sort of internal impulse on what you want to do with your work, that you're going to have to really make a decision on whether you want to do something that's commercially viable, like you were talking about. I think we were talking about this off camera. Do something that's commercially viable, or keep on going with your sort of wherever you're sort of being led to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, with Howlarium and the things that I do, I make a lot of choices that aren't necessarily the most shareable, or the most viral, or the most commercially explosive, and I do that deliberately. There's a lot of angles that I don't play marketing wise, and I could play them, but I just decide not to. So those are the choices you're going to have to make. I would say follow your internal impulses, do what you want to do. But if you decide you want to do something more commercial and you really want to do it, that's fine. If you decide you don't, that's fine too.
Yeah, I think that there isn't just one right way to do this.
Absolutely not.
And the other thing that I do want to get across to people, and I hope I have in a lot of these interviews, is that what success looks like for you, quote unquote success, isn't necessarily what it looks like for me, and isn't even necessarily what it looks like for society, because just to get published can very often, for a lot of people, that's the dream, that's the success. And it doesn't mean that you have to be this, suddenly, okay, I'm going to quit my day job and tell my boss to, where to get off and stuff like that. Maybe that's not success, or maybe that's success in a few years or in 10 years or something like that. But maybe this is, let's go, it's a big steep hill. So let's go up one step at a time. And the first step is to get, to start to get things finished, and then to work with an editor, and then to start to work with a cover artist, and then to, get yourself published and start querying, or even if that's unsuccessful for a while, but to have that experience that it's very hard to be an overnight success in anything to do with this business. The overnight success is often something that takes, 10 or 20 years. So what's coming up for you? What'd you say?
what's coming up for me?
Crystal ball.
Yeah, I'm playing Nostradamus here. I'm badgering the next people that I want to be interviewing, and I want to sort of do more full-length interviews on the site, and definitely finish some short stories. Let's see what else is coming. My life is so boring, Janet. It's just, if you're a writer, your life is supposed to be boring. Like nothing happens in a writer's life really, because you're sitting in a room all the time. So if your life is boring, guys, it's fine. That's what's supposed to be happening. You're not supposed to have any news. No, short stories and some more interviews.
Fantastic. So I'd like to thank Jason Howell for joining us today. And once again, this is Janet Gerson-Siegel, the Lonely Writer, because an independent writer never has to be alone. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Janet.